some advanced level formatting tricks for making poetry books. And these are things that will not only help make a beautiful book of poetry that'll sell well, it'll also help you set up a whole bunch of marketing material that's very powerful for building your platform and getting your poems out there and actually selling books. And it's kind of the power of design or typography. Something I've done, because I use Photoshop usually, so normally I would use something like Graphic River and I'd search for a typographic template that looks cool, maybe something kind of like one of these. I would just find a style that looks nice and then I would use it to add in my poem. None of these are very good actually. So here's more what I was looking for. Something kind of interesting like this. You need something with a lot of text, but it's something stylish that has a little bit of decoration. And I wouldn't use this for all of my poems, but for example, out of every poem, you could take 5 words or one little phrase or one really meaningful little collection of words and put it into a graphical design like this. Not every poem, but maybe every 10 pages you have a really nice looking graphical design that uses some of your words. But that's a little tricky if you're not good with Photoshop. So the other things you can use are word swag. Word swag is something you can get on iPhone or iPad. I can't show you how it works because I am on my computer, but basically it has all these pre-designed templates and all you have to do is type in your text and it will automatically make it look really nice. And you can change fonts, you can change the background picture. It's all super, super easy and it will look good. So even if you don't use this for actually formatting your book of poetry, you should be using this for your marketing because you can, the other nice thing I really like is that with an iPhone or iPad, they have a microphone button, so you don't even have to type out your poem. You can just pick your design, you can hit the microphone button and say the words you want in your design, and then just play with it and get some really awesome looking graphics. These are things that you can use on Twitter or Facebook. They're going to get a lot of shares. It's going to be so much more popular than just trying to, like if you just share your poetry book, it won't be so easy. You can also, this is the poem I was working on before, even though I didn't do very much with the formatting. You can also just do something like take a screenshot of your actual book and share that picture on social media because that's still better than nothing. It's nice turning your poetry into a graphic because it makes it really easy to share. But if you put that in a image that's colorful and has a background and has really nice topography, it's going to be much more powerful. And you can take these images and just put them in your formatting. I don't have an example. I wonder if I can do this. So I'm just stealing that picture and going back to my Word file. There it is. And I just dragged and dropped this picture into my Word document. So I could do this with my poetry, even if it's not the whole poem. Like I could just have the introduction, I could have the first line of each poem look something like this. You want to keep the style the same for everything, but like the first page of every poem could just be one awesome picture that gets their attention, and then you could continue with the rest of the poem on the next page. That's something very easy you could do that looks great. You want to keep a style the same. You don't want to just use random different styles or different pictures on everything. And you might want to keep it text only, because if you start adding images with pictures and text, it could get too messy. And this looks really good just having nice formatted typography on the white background in your document. However, you could also do full page images. So if you wanted to have, let me give another picture. I'm not sure if it'll let me take this one. I guess so. Yeah, so if I made a picture with a background like this, and I change the position wrap, and I make it bigger, I could do a full page image with some text in it, which actually looks kind of amazing. You have to be careful when you're setting it up on CreateSpace. If you're using square images, this would be really good for an 8.5 by 8.5 book, and it won't be color because you're going to be probably printing it in black and white on CreateSpace. And you want to make sure that your bleed, it'll ask you if the bleed of your book goes to the edges, and you want to make sure that you choose the option where the bleed goes off the page, because if you don't, they're not going to approve your document. But you could do it this way, where at the beginning of every section or the beginning of every poem even, you could have a full graphic image. I'm actually going to start doing this for all of my fiction because it's more commonly used right now by traditional mainstream young adult fiction. A lot of the chapter sections will have these really huge graphic images, and the nice thing is you're not paying for ink. When you're using CreateSpace, you pay by the page count, but you don't pay per ink. So even if you have tons of photographs in your poetry book that make it look really amazing, it doesn't cost you any more to make, and it's really powerful because it looks awesome. So that's something you can do with WordSwag if you have an iPhone or an iPad. You can also use Canva. Canva is something I love. I should use it a lot more often because I know how to use Photoshop, but Canva is just easier and it looks really good. So for example, social media posts, these are 800 by 800. That's not quite big enough for your print book. It's fine for online, but for your print book, this is if it's an 8.5 document, that's, let's see, I think it's 2700 pixels wide, which is pretty big. That's 300 dpi pixels per inch for an 8.5 size book. So if it's 2700 pixels wide and this one is only 800 pixels, it's not going to be clear enough to use in your print book, also in your ebook, because the ebook in high resolution devices like the Kindle Fire, which is 600 dpi, your images are going to look really small. So they also have to be pretty big in the ebook, and it will adjust automatically to fit them in the screen size. But you can use custom dimensions. So I could just set my own custom dimensions to 2700 by 2700 and start that way, and it'll be fine for print, which is amazing. You can use this for Facebook covers. You can use it for a Facebook app. Square images like this are great for Twitter or Instagram. It says social media, but actually on Facebook, I think these presentation images will work better. It just fills the feed better for Facebook and also for Twitter. So I would use ones that are a little wider and not quite as tall. And then you would just pick a picture and just add, you could try to add your full poem. That's probably going to be a tight squeeze. So I would just take a couple sentences, like really nice parts of your poem, added to a really nice picture, and make tons of them. You could make 3 or 4 for every poem. You could make 100 of these for your book of poetry, and that'll give you an arsenal of marketing material that's going to be way more effective than what most other people trying to market their poetry are doing, because trying to sell poetry is really hard. But if you just make these graphical images, you want to try to probably, when you share them, either put your website or your name or the name of your book really small down on the bottom. You don't want to make it look ugly. You don't want to make it look like marketing, because people are less likely to share your image if it's obviously marketing instead of just a nice picture with some nice text. But when you share the picture, even if it doesn't have any contact information or your website on the picture, you can still just share it on Twitter or Facebook and add the comment or the text with the name of your book or something like, this is an excerpt from my poetry book, here's the link. You don't have to put that stuff on the picture. The idea is you're just going to be putting tons of this stuff out there. You could put a new image every day for 3 months if you make 100 of these, and that'll be better marketing than almost anything else you can think of. But you can also use some of this stuff just to make like a nice Facebook event cover. They have all sorts of stuff now. I really need to dig back into this because I could be improving my platform. You could use this for your blog headers. You could use it for almost anything for your marketing material. But the basic idea is to use one of these, either WordSwag or Canva, to turn your poetry into graphic art with really nice typography. If you do this well, you'll have a whole bunch of really cool images that people will share for you. And that's really the secret, is that if you're asking people like, hey, I've got a poetry book, will you buy it, will you review it, will you share it? Almost nobody's going to do that. But if you upload one really nice picture with one really nice quote, and you could just have like a few words and your author name, people will share that stuff without you having to ask them because people like sharing that stuff. So if you have a bunch of that stuff, people are going to share it all over. And it's really going to get your name out there. It's going to get your poetry out there. I wouldn't worry about, a lot of authors worry about copyright infringement or people like stealing your work. I wouldn't worry about that as long as you have these images that look nice and have your author name. People are too lazy to steal your work. They're just going to share and reblog it. And all of this stuff is already going to be in your poetry book anyway, so it's really already copyright protected when you publish. So, I mean, it happens, it's always going to happen, but the worry is not, will someone steal it? The worry is anyone going to give a shit about my book of poetry? How do I get it out there? How do I get people to buy and review it? How do I market it? That's going to be a lot more frustrating for you than worrying about, is anyone going to steal it? People have to know about it and like it first before they'll even think about stealing it. And most people just, it's really not as big of a worry as you think it is. So I wouldn't worry about that. I would just try to get it out there, and using graphic images like this, but especially using graphic images and putting them into your print formatting like this, is a really powerful way to format a poetry book that looks different and really stands out, so that when people pick it up and flip through it, you know, even without reading it, they'll flip through it and then they'll say, wow, this is awesome. I'm going to buy this book just because it looks so good. And that's really the power of design. Thanks. Bye-bye.